So you said that you were married to Craig?
Yes, I was Craig's. Well, he was my first husband. I think I was his first wife. I don't know if he ever married again. We got married in 1980.
In 1980, okay. And did he talk about Suzanne much, or was did they him and the family at all, or is it pretty?
Yes.
Yes,
they did. Her picture was up. They talked about her. They talked about what happened. But my gosh, I've tried to. The only thing I can recall is what I said in that text message was that Craig was young, and there was a man. And I recall it being a helicopter, but it could, I heard Barbara's tape, and she's probably more on than I am. But I recall him saying that the man took him out on the helicopter, and they found her almost immediately. He did tell me when I came along, they were trying to put their lives back together, I think in Amarillo. So I met Craig. Sort of a weird story, but I'm from London, Ohio, and I left an abusive relationship, and I went hitchhiking when I was 18, and Craig picked me up in his semi-truck. It was just a young girl trying to get away, and actually Craig and Barbara and Milton saved my life. Craig and I stayed on his truck a lot, and we drove coast to coast. Well, he drove. I rode coast to coast. And he brought me to Amarillo, and we lived with his parents for a few months. And they were just sweet as they could be. But I do remember them speaking about Suzanne because the night of our wedding, we were having our wedding party, and Milton said, "We now have a daughter again." I remember that, like clear as day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had been looking for Craig for years, but he wasn't on the internet. And then I guess something you guys were doing, he just they all appeared on my face, on a Google search. And do you know how he died?
So, and I don't know if this is 100% true, my mom told me it was recently, I think Milton died first, and then it was within really soon, Barbara made him some kind of chicken or something, and he took it home and he choked on it.
Oh my gosh.
That's what my mom said. I don't know if that's 100% what happened, but I think that he did choke. Yeah, that's.
Well, it baffled me. I was just like, oh my God, he's dead. And so.
I have an ex-wife, and it would be crazy to hear that she was. Yeah, that's a weird thing to hear for sure.
Well, we were so young, and of course when we were together, there was no internet. There was, anything like that. And so I lost touch with Craig about 1982. I think that's when we got a divorce, and I had never heard from him. So I just was sort of, wanting to make some amends and, hope he was well. And I couldn't believe Barbara was still alive. Craig was very young, and I know that he was devastated by it. And the whole family was pretty much devastated by it. I knew Milton. And I lived in their house, and I was a young woman. Milton was kind. He was working. He never made, and I was 18, and I didn't know these people. If he were a creep, I would have chewed in on that. His family was nothing but wonderful to me. Milton was kind and jovial. I mean, they threw us a big wedding. I was poor. I didn't have any money. They threw us a big wedding. I would never even have any kind of suspicion towards Milton, Craig, or Barbara. They were loving. They lived in Amarillo, Texas. I think we lived on 37th Street, or they had a beautiful home. And Craig and I were in the truck, and which was, it was the early 80s, late 70s. People hitchhiked. That's just what they did. And Craig picked me up, and he was a total gentleman. Now, we drank a lot, and we smoked a lot of pot, and Craig took a lot of pills. I didn't. I was really young. I didn't know. He was gorgeous. I remember him having blue eyes and brown hair, and I was free of the abusive boyfriend, and Craig and I got married pretty quickly. I think within 2 months we got married. And we had a wedding at Barbara Milton's house. And I lived there for a few months before we got an apartment. But Milton he was always a gentleman. Barbara when I listened to her voice, I was like, oh, yes, I do remember. She was very kind to me, bought my wedding dress, and made sure I had shampoo and food, and we had family dinners. But, they were, I think, moving on from that. I know Craig was tormented with the death of his sister. He also got shot. Now, I don't know if you know this. He was shot by a girl's dad in a hotel in Canyon, Texas, in the abdomen. But Craig had took a girl to a hotel in Canyon, Texas. Of course, this is going to be before 1980 because I met him in 1980. And he had a girl at a hotel, and he was shot in the stomach. And he had a really good sized scar on his stomach and had some complications from that. It was a long time ago. And so that my brain, I was a young, dumb girl, so I just can't remember a whole lot. But Craig and I rode on that truck for miles and miles from Los Angeles to New York about every 3 days. We did a turnaround. We'd come to Amarillo, and we'd stay here a couple days. We had an apartment for a while. He was a great driver. He was a smart man. He taught me a lot. We had a lot of fun. I'd never left Ohio, so I got to see red dirt and pineapples grow in South Texas and go to California, and I got to see a lot of things with him. He never was mean to me. He was never abusive to me. Neither was Barbara or Milton. Everybody was they were a fantastic family.